The coffee in my hands went cold as I stared at the email on my phone. After 12 years of silence, there it was. Chelsea's name in my inbox like a punch to the gut. "Hey Sarah, hope you're doing well. I know it's been forever, but I'm applying for this amazing position at Morrison and Associates. They need a character reference from someone in the legal field. Since you work at that big firm downtown, would you mind writing me one? It would mean so much. Love, Chelsea." I set my mug down with shaking hands. My husband Mark looked up from his newspaper at our kitchen table, steam rising from his own coffee cup in the morning light filtering through our kitchen window. "Everything okay, hun?" I couldn't even speak. Chelsea Martinez, my stepsister who destroyed my life in 2012, was asking me for a favor. The same woman who sat in that family court and lied under oath about me, who cost me my reputation, $23,000 in legal bills, and nearly my marriage. "Sarah?" Mark's voice got softer. He knew that look, the same one I'd worn for months after the court case, when I'd stare at nothing and replay every moment of that nightmare. "It's Chelsea," I whispered. His face went pale. The newspaper crinkled as his grip tightened. We never talked about Chelsea anymore. The subject was too raw, even after all these years. I walked to our living room window and looked out at the Seattle skyline, the Space Needle visible in the distance. 12 years ago, I was a different person, younger, more trusting. I believed family meant something. I believed the truth always won. How naive I was. When my mom married Frank Martinez in 2008, I was 23 and fresh out of paralegal school. Chelsea was 25, loud, and already working as a real estate agent. She had this way of filling up every room she entered. Big laugh, bigger personality, always the center of attention. Her dark hair was always perfectly styled, her nails always done, her voice carrying across any crowd. "We're sisters now," she announced at the wedding reception, throwing her tanned arms around me in a cloud of expensive perfume. "This is going to be so fun." At first it was. Chelsea knew everyone in town. She got me invited to parties at waterfront condos, introduced me to people who mattered, helped me land my first job at Peterson and Associates. I was grateful, maybe even a little starstruck by her confidence. But Chelsea had this habit of bending rules. She'd use the office printer for personal real estate flyers. She'd fudge numbers on expense reports by $20 or $30. Small things, she said. Everyone did it. "You're too honest, Sarah," she'd laugh when I wouldn't join in, her perfectly white teeth flashing. "Sometimes you have to work the system. That's how people like us get ahead." People like us. I should have asked what she meant by that. The first real crack came in 2010. Mom and Frank bought a vacation cabin up in the mountains. A rustic place with a stone fireplace and a view of the lake. A place for the whole family to enjoy, Mom said. But Chelsea started using it for her real estate clients, hosting weekend parties without asking. I'd drive up to find empty wine bottles scattered on the deck, cigarette butts in the fire pit, and strange cars in the driveway. When I mentioned it to Mom, Chelsea exploded. "You're such a tattletale. I'm bringing in business contacts up there. I'm helping the family build relationships." But she wasn't helping. She was using. And when confronted, she always had an excuse, always twisted the situation until she was the victim and I was the problem. The pattern was already there. I just didn't see it yet. The final straw came in 2011. Our grandmother, Mom's mother, passed away after a long battle with dementia. Grandma Rose had always been the heart of our family, the one who remembered everyone's birthday, who made Christmas magical, who slipped me $20 bills for being such a good girl. In her final months, when her mind started slipping, she'd been living in an assisted care facility. The costs were enormous, $4,500 a month, but she'd saved her whole life, working as a seamstress and living modestly in the same small house for 40 years. When she died, she left her entire estate to Mom, $67,000 in savings and some family jewelry, her wedding ring, a pearl necklace from her own mother, and a silver locket that had been in our family for generations. Mom made a decision that seemed fair at the time. She would split everything equally between Chelsea and me, $33,500 each, plus we could each choose some of the jewelry. That's when everything went wrong. I thought I was getting a sister's share of an inheritance. Chelsea thought she was getting cheated out of what was rightfully hers. I'll never forget the day I found out. March 15th, 2012. I was at work, reviewing contracts for a real estate closing, when my phone rang. The caller ID showed a number I didn't recognize. Sarah Johnson? The voice was professional, crisp. It's Sarah Thompson now, I corrected. Mark and I had just gotten married the month before, and I was still getting used to my new name. Who's calling? This is Patricia Hendricks from Hendricks & Associates. We represent Chelsea Martinez in a family estate dispute. We need to discuss some irregularities regarding your grandmother's estate distribution. My blood turned to ice. Irregularities? According to our client, your grandmother made specific verbal promises about her estate distribution before her death. Chelsea claims your grandmother intended for her to receive the majority of the inheritance and that you've improperly claimed funds that don't belong to you. I nearly dropped the phone. The fluorescent office lights suddenly felt too bright, the air too thick. That's impossible. Mom divided everything equally between us. I have the bank statements. Ma'am, we'll be filing a civil lawsuit within the week. You should retain counsel. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold the phone steady. The other paralegals in the office were starting to stare, their conversations quieting as they sensed something was wrong. I don't understand. What is Chelsea claiming? She's claiming that your grandmother verbally promised her the bulk of the inheritance due to her role as primary caregiver during your grandmother's final illness. She also alleges that you manipulated your grandmother's mental state to secure promises of additional funds. Manipulated? The word hit me like a slap. I'd visited Grandma Rose every week, held her hand when she was scared, brought her favorite chocolate chip cookies. Chelsea had visited maybe once a month, usually bringing loud friends who upset the other residents. There must be some mistake. We'll be in touch, Mrs. Thompson. The line went dead. I sat there staring at my phone, my heart pounding like I'd just run a marathon. Around me, the office continued its normal rhythm, phones ringing, keyboards clicking, copy machines humming. But everything felt surreal, like I was watching it all through water. This couldn't be happening. Family didn't do this to family. When I called Mark, my voice was barely a whisper. Chelsea's suing me. The next 6 months were a nightmare wrapped in legal documents and sleepless nights. Chelsea had painted a picture of me as someone who preyed on our vulnerable grandmother, someone who would manipulate a sick old woman for money. Her story was detailed and devastating. According to Chelsea's sworn affidavit, Grandma Rose had repeatedly told her that she was worried about Sarah's financial situation and wanted to make sure Chelsea, who had been such a devoted caregiver, would inherit the majority of the estate. Chelsea claimed that during Grandma's final weeks, when her dementia was worst, I had coached her to make statements about giving me extra money. She had witnessed statements from 2 of her friends who had visited the care facility, claiming they'd overheard conversations where Grandma expressed these concerns. All lies. But believable lies, told by someone who had years to plan them. The truth was simpler and uglier. Chelsea had been struggling financially for months before Grandma died. Her real estate business was failing, she had maxed out 3 credit cards, and she was 2 months behind on rent for her downtown apartment. She needed money desperately, and she saw Grandma's inheritance as her salvation. But saying Chelsea needed money so she lied made me sound petty and vindictive. She was grieving, people said. She was just trying to honor her grandmother's wishes. I hired a lawyer, David Kelso, a kind man with gray hair and tired eyes who specialized in family law. The consultation fee alone was $500. The retainer he required was $15,000, money Mark and I didn't have. We borrowed against his 401k, maxed out our own credit cards, and asked my parents for help. "Are you sure about this?" Mom asked when I called, her voice careful and strained. "Maybe you could just work something out with Chelsea privately?" Even my own mother wasn't sure she believed me. We gathered every document we could find. Bank statements showing the inheritance distribution, records from the care facility showing my visit logs versus Chelsea's, documentation of Chelsea's financial troubles and my stable employment. But Chelsea was smart. She had covered her emotional tracks well, and she had something I didn't. She was willing to lie under oath with tears in her eyes. The worst part wasn't the money. It was watching people I loved start to doubt me. The civil trial took place in a small family courtroom that smelled like old wood and disappointment. I'll never forget sitting at that plaintiff's table, watching my stepsister take the witness stand. She wore a simple black dress that made her look younger, more vulnerable. Her usually bold makeup was toned down, her voice softer than I'd ever heard it. "Your grandmother spoke to you about her concerns regarding Sarah?" Chelsea's lawyer asked. "Yes." Chelsea's voice broke slightly. She was worried. She said Sarah had been asking her about money, about when she'd inherit everything. Grandma was scared that Sarah saw her as just a bank account. The lie was so smooth, so practiced. Had she rehearsed it in the mirror? "And what did your grandmother tell you about her wishes for the inheritance?" Chelsea looked directly at me, her eyes filling with tears. "She said she wanted me to have most of it because I'd been taking care of her. She said I'd earned it by being there when she needed me most." Another lie. The truth was that Chelsea's caregiving consisted of occasional visits where she'd spend most of the time on phone calls with clients, stepping into the hallway to conduct business while Grandma sat alone in her room. "She said she was going to talk to Mom about changing the distribution," Chelsea continued. "But then her dementia got worse and she never got the chance." I wanted to scream. I wanted to jump up and tell everyone about the times Chelsea had missed Grandma's birthday, forgotten to call on holidays, showed up to family gatherings late because she was closing deals. But my lawyer held my arm. "Stay calm," David whispered. "Let her story stand or fall on its own merits." But her story didn't fall. The judge, an elderly woman with kind eyes, seemed moved by Chelsea's testimony. How could she not be? Chelsea was so convincing, so emotional, so believable in her grief. "Sarah was always competitive with me," Chelsea said during cross-examination, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. "Even as adults, she acted like everything was a contest. When Grandma got sick, I think Sarah saw it as an opportunity to get ahead of me somehow." The biggest lie of all. Chelsea was the one who turned everything into competition, who couldn't stand to see anyone else succeed. The worst moment came when Chelsea looked at me directly from the witness stand. "I still love Sarah like a sister," she said, her voice trembling with what sounded like genuine emotion. "I just want to honor Grandma's wishes. That's all I've ever wanted." In that moment, watching her perform that final lie, something inside me broke. Not my heart. That had already been shattered. My faith. My belief that truth and goodness would somehow win in the end. The judge ruled in Chelsea's favor. Not completely, I didn't have to give back everything, but she awarded Chelsea an additional $15,000 from my portion of the inheritance. With legal fees, court costs, and lost wages from time off work, the case cost me over $30,000. Chelsea got her money. I got a lesson in how easily the truth can be buried under well-crafted lies. For years I kept quiet. Mark and I moved across town to a small house in Ballard, away from the memories and the whispers. I found work at a smaller firm, Hendricks & Lew, where nobody knew my story. I kept my head down, did excellent work, and slowly rebuilt my reputation one case at a time. But I never stopped watching Chelsea. See, that's the thing about people like my stepsister. They don't learn from their mistakes. They just get better at hiding them. Chelsea used that stolen money to prop up her failing real estate business for another year. But by 2014, she was in trouble again. I heard through family gossip that she was cutting corners, making promises she couldn't keep, leaving clients high and dry when deals fell through. I started paying attention, really paying attention. In my job at Hendricks & Lew, I had access to public records, court filings, business registrations. It's amazing what you can learn when you know where to look and you have legitimate reasons to be looking. Real estate transactions are public record. Lawsuit filings are public record. Professional licensing actions are public record. By 2016, I had a file on Chelsea 3 inches thick, organized in manila folders with neat labels and chronological tabs. She had been sued by 8 different clients for misrepresentation between 2013 and 2017. She had failed to disclose major property defects, hidden inspection reports that showed foundation problems, and inflated property values to secure higher commissions. She had been cited by the State Real Estate Board 6 times for ethical violations, failure to disclose conflicts of interest, misrepresenting property conditions, and abandoning clients mid-transaction. But the best part? In 2018, she got caught in a mortgage fraud scheme. Not as the mastermind, Chelsea was never that smart, but as someone who falsified income documents for buyers who couldn't qualify for loans. She helped a mortgage broker create fake pay stubs and tax returns, taking a cut of each fraudulent loan. She plea bargained it down to 2 years probation and 200 hours of community service. Her real estate license was suspended for 18 months. The local news covered it, but just barely. A small item buried on page 3 of the business section. Most people missed it. I didn't. I kept copies of everything. Every court filing, every complaint, every disciplinary action. I organized it all in neat chronological order, cross-referenced by date and type of violation. It sat in a fireproof filing cabinet in our spare bedroom, waiting. "What are you going to do with all this?" Mark asked me once, finding me updating the files late one night. I wasn't sure then, but I knew someday it would matter. Patience is a weapon most people don't know how to use. But I learned. When Chelsea's email arrived last Tuesday morning, I knew that someday had come. I did some quick research on Morrison and Associates during my lunch break. Big firm, 127 attorneys, offices in 3 states. Excellent reputation built over 40 years of serving high-net-worth clients. They specialized in real estate law, corporate transactions, and estate planning, which meant they'd be extra careful about hiring someone with Chelsea's background, if they knew about it. I spent my lunch hour making phone calls from my car in the parking garage where the concrete walls would muffle my voice. The State Bar Association keeps records of all disciplinary actions against legal professionals. The Real Estate Licensing Board does the same. Everything I had collected over the years was still there, still public record, still searchable by anyone who knew where to look. I also called my friend Janet Morrison, yes, that Morrison, who worked in HR at the family firm. "Hey, it's Sarah Thompson from Hendricks & Liu. I have a weird question for you." "Shoot." Janet's voice was warm, familiar. We'd worked together on several real estate transactions over the years. "If someone applies for a position with you guys, how thorough is your background check?" "Pretty thorough. We run credit checks, verify employment history, check with the Bar Association for any disciplinary actions." "Why?" "What about checking with other professional licensing boards?" Janet paused. I could hear papers rustling in the background, the distant sound of phones ringing. "We should, but honestly, sometimes things slip through if the person doesn't disclose them up front on their application. It's not automatic, we have to know to look. Why are you asking?" I took a deep breath, tasting the recycled air of the parking garage. "My stepsister is applying for a position with you. She's asked me to be a character reference." "Oh wow, that's awkward. Are you going to do it?" "Am I?" The question hung in the air like exhaust fumes. The old Sarah would have said no and left it at that. Maybe warned them privately to be careful. But I wasn't the old Sarah anymore. "I'm still deciding," I told Janet. "But if I do, it'll be completely honest." "Fair enough. What's her name? I can pull her application." "Chelsea Martinez." "Give me 2 minutes." I heard the clicking of computer keys, the soft sound of Janet humming under her breath while she searched. Then silence. "Sarah? Yeah?" "Her application says she's never been subject to any professional disciplinary actions. That's a specific question on our form." "Of course it does." "I see. If you know something we should know." "Let me think about it, okay? I'll call you back." That evening, I sat at my kitchen table with Chelsea's email pulled up on my laptop. Mark was helping our daughter Emma with her algebra homework at the dining room table, his patient voice walking her through polynomial equations. Our son Jake was practicing piano in the living room, the same Chopin nocturne over and over until he got it right. This was my life now, quiet, stable, built on truth and hard work and the small daily victories of family life. Everything Chelsea had tried to destroy 12 years ago. She almost succeeded then, but I'm not the same person she defeated in court. I opened a new email and started typing, choosing each word carefully. "Hi, Chelsea. Thank you for reaching out. I'd be happy to serve as a character reference for your application to Morrison and Associates. As someone who works in the legal field, I believe in the importance of complete honesty and transparency in these matters. I'll be sure to mention our family history, including the estate dispute from 2012 where you provided testimony about my character in court. I'll also include information about your professional background in real estate, including your experience with client relationships and regulatory compliance over the past decade. I think it's important that Morrison and Associates has a complete picture of who they're considering for employment, including any professional licensing issues or legal proceedings. I'm sure you'd want the same level of thoroughness if you were in their position. Please let me know if you'd like to discuss this further before I submit my reference. Best regards, Sarah. My finger hovered over the send button for a full minute. In the living room, Jake finished his nocturne perfectly, the final notes hanging in the air like a question. Emma laughed at something Mark said about X and Y variables. This is what she tried to take from me. This peace, this life built on truth. I hit send before I could change my mind. My phone rang within 8 minutes. I was washing dishes when it buzzed against the kitchen counter, Chelsea's name flashing on the screen like a warning. What the hell is that supposed to mean? Her voice was just as loud as I remembered, just as demanding. No greeting, no pleasantries, straight to the attack. I dried my hands slowly on the kitchen towel, centering myself. Hello, Chelsea. It's good to hear from you too. Don't play games with me, Sarah. Are you going to give me a good reference or not? 12 years of anger wanted to come pouring out. Every sleepless night, every dollar spent on legal fees, every whispered conversation that stopped when I entered a room. But I stayed calm, my voice level. I'm going to give you an honest reference. Honest? What's that supposed to mean? Through the kitchen window, I could see our neighbor's porch light coming on in the gathering dusk. Normal people living normal lives, unaware of the reckoning happening over the phone. It means I'm going to tell them the truth about our relationship and your professional history. Silence. I could hear traffic in the background on her end, the sound of her breathing. Sarah, listen. Her voice changed, became softer, more wheedling. I know we had some issues in the past, but that was a long time ago. We're family. Now we're family? The irony was so thick I could taste it. Issues, Chelsea? Is that what you call perjuring yourself in court and taking money that wasn't yours? I never committed perjury. I told them what I believed was true at the time. Even now, even after all these years, she couldn't admit it. Some part of me had hoped that maybe, just maybe, she'd grown enough to take responsibility. I should have known better. What you believed was true. You knew exactly what you were doing. You needed money, and you saw an opportunity to take it. That money was as much mine as yours. Grandma loved me too. You're right, I said quietly. She did love you, and your share was $33,500, the same amount you got, plus the $15,000 the judge awarded you based on your lies. Another pause. I could picture her face, the same expression she'd worn as a child when caught red-handed, but still trying to talk her way out of trouble. Look, Sarah, I'm in a tough spot right now, okay? I really need this job. Can't we just let the past be the past? And there it was. The same Chelsea who thought rules didn't apply to her, who thought she could charm her way out of anything, who believed that wanting something badly enough made it okay to lie and cheat to get it. The past has consequences, Chelsea. You should know that better than anyone. What are you saying? I looked around my kitchen, at Emma's school artwork on the refrigerator, at Mark's coffee mug in the sink with "World's Best Dad" printed on it, at the family calendar full of soccer games and music lessons and all the ordinary, precious moments that make up a life. This is what I built from the ashes of what she tried to destroy. I'm saying that Morrison and Associates deserves to know about your disciplinary actions with the real estate board, your conviction for mortgage fraud, your pattern of client complaints over the years. Dead silence. How do you know about... It's all public record, Chelsea. I'm surprised you didn't mention any of it in your application. Didn't they ask about legal proceedings and professional disciplinary actions? You bitch! Her voice was low now, dangerous, the fake sweetness stripped away. You're going to ruin this for me. No, I said calmly. You ruined it for yourself, just like you ruined things for me 12 years ago. I was protecting the family assets. You were protecting yourself, just like you always do. I could hear her breathing hard on the other end of the line, like she'd been running. Please, Sarah. The word came out cracked, desperate. I'm begging you, I haven't worked in 10 months. I'm 3 months behind on rent. My car's about to be repossessed. I just need one break, one chance to start over. For a moment, just a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. But then I remembered sitting in that courtroom, watching her lie under oath with tears streaming down her face. I remembered the whispers, the lost job opportunities, the nights Mark held me while I cried from the stress of fighting lies with truth. You had a chance to start over 12 years ago, I said. You could have admitted what you did. You could have made it right. Instead, you chose to destroy me to save yourself. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. And now you want me to help you do it to someone else? To let Morrison and Associates hire someone who commits fraud? Someone who lies under oath? Someone who takes advantage of vulnerable people? I've changed. I'm not the same person I was then. Have you? Because your email to me was full of the same fake sweetness you used in court. Same manipulation, same assumption that I'd just go along with whatever you wanted. And your job application. Did you mention your criminal conviction on that? Silence. That's what I thought. Chelsea started crying then. Not the practiced tears of her courtroom performance, but ugly, desperate sobs. Sarah, please, I'm begging you. I'll do anything. I'll pay you back for the lawyer fees. I'll publicly admit I was wrong about the inheritance. I'll make it right somehow. Now she wanted to make it right. Now that she needed something from me. After 12 years of silence, 12 years of letting me carry the weight of her lies. It's too late for that, Chelsea. So what, you're just going to sabotage me? Is that your big revenge? I'm not sabotaging anything. I'm just not going to lie for you, something you might not understand. The line went quiet except for her ragged breathing. You know what? Fine. Do your worst. But when this destroys what's left of our family, when Mom asks me why I can't get a job, I'm going to tell her exactly what kind of person you really are. Go ahead, I said. Tell her the truth for once. It might be good practice. She hung up on me. I never did write that reference letter. The next morning, I called Janet at Morrison and Associates and withdrew my name from consideration as a character reference. I mentioned that I had concerns about my ability to remain objective given our complicated family history. No problem, Janet said. Actually, that makes me want to dig a little deeper into her background. Thanks for the heads up. Just be thorough with your background check. Make sure you're getting the whole picture. We will. Trust me. We've learned the hard way that it's better to over-investigate than to hire someone who brings problems to our door. 3 days later, Chelsea called me again. Her voice was flat, defeated, stripped of all its usual bravado. They rescinded the job offer. I was folding laundry in our bedroom, surrounded by the comfortable chaos of family life. Mark's work shirts, Emma's soccer uniforms, Jake's school clothes. I'm sorry to hear that. No, you're not. She was right. I wasn't sorry. I was relieved. Relieved that Morrison and Associates wouldn't have to find out the hard way what kind of person Chelsea was. Relieved that her pattern of taking advantage of people would stop, at least there. What happens now? I asked. I don't know. Maybe I'll leave Seattle. Start over somewhere else. Running away won't change who you are, Chelsea. And staying won't change who you are either. You're vindictive and petty and you hold grudges forever. Maybe she was right about the grudges part. But vindictive? Petty? I told the truth, I said. That's all I ever did. 12 years ago and now. Your truth. The truth. There's only one. She hung up on me again. That was 4 weeks ago. I haven't heard from Chelsea since, and I don't expect to. Mom called last week asking what happened. Apparently Chelsea told her that I sabotaged her job opportunity out of spite. I gave Mom the same answer I gave Chelsea. I told the truth. If that cost Chelsea a job, then maybe she should have thought about consequences 12 years ago. Maybe she should have thought about them before she lied on her job application. But she's family, Sarah, Mom said, her voice tired. Don't you think she's suffered enough? Suffered enough? I thought about the $30,000 in legal fees, the job opportunities I lost because of whispered rumors, the nights I lay awake wondering if even my own family believed I was capable of stealing from a dying woman. Has she ever apologized? I asked. Has she ever admitted she lied? Has she ever tried to make things right? Silence. That's what I thought. Mark thinks I did the right thing, though he wishes I could find a way to let go of the anger. It's eating you up inside, he said the other night as we sat on our back porch, watching the kids chase fireflies in the yard. Maybe he's right, but some anger is justified. Some anger serves a purpose. Our kids don't know the whole story. They just know that Aunt Chelsea isn't part of our lives anymore, that there was some kind of grown-up problem that happened before they were born. Maybe someday I'll be able to forgive her, but forgiveness doesn't mean pretending the past didn't happen. It doesn't mean helping someone repeat the same mistakes that hurt you before. It doesn't mean enabling someone to hurt other people just because they share your DNA. I learned something important through all of this. The truth doesn't always win quickly, but it wins eventually. People like Chelsea think they're smart. think they can stay one step ahead of their choices. But choices add up. Actions have consequences, even when those consequences take 12 years to arrive. I also learned that playing the long game isn't about revenge. It's about protection. By keeping track of Chelsea's pattern of behavior, I wasn't planning to hurt her. I was preparing to protect others. Morrison and Associates deserved to know who they were hiring. Their clients deserve to be protected from someone with Chelsea's history. That matters more than family loyalty or forgiveness or letting bygones be bygones. Some people think I should have taken the high road, should have given Chelsea another chance. But the high road isn't about being nice to people who hurt you. It's about doing what's right, even when it's hard. The truth is hard. Justice is hard. But they're worth fighting for. And sometimes, the best revenge is simply refusing to be part of someone else's lie. Let me know what you think. Would you have submitted that true reference or just let it all go?